He was like, no, I'm gonna save the 100 people and kill the one I love. Because ethics. Well, look who we have here again. I am reading a true crime magazine again, and you know what that means. You have been lost all the way up until now, but you have been found because I'm your kind of person. This is your kind of content, and look at this beauty. It is 15 classic British murder cases. It used to cost 25p, guys, and I got it for like £3. It is from summer 1974. We're going all the way back, and I'm probably gonna cover every single case out of this magazine just because they're just genius and they just give you a flavor. So for the next couple of True Detective tea, expect just the British cases, just to engrave you into the British culture, just to explain everything. Everything will be explained. Also, just a disclaimer, as everybody knows, when I do this True Detective tea, I only get the information from here, and we laugh at the quotes and how it was written. So first, let's see what they have considered to be truly British cases, the editors of the magazine in 1974. The classic British murder case has always commanded a strangely unique position in the chronicles of crime. From Jack the Ripper and the many memorable crimes of the last century, innumerable situations have thrown up high drama to stir even the placid British temperament. Basically, the crimes are just shocking. That is actually true for a lot of British YouTubers, that you will see them cover British crimes and always be like, this is shocking, it's a small place, nobody expected this. Whereas in the US, it was like, yeah, here it just happens every day. This is nothing unusual. And here it's like, we are placid, we are calm people. This shocked the nation. What you can expect from this magazine, they actually covered, hey, the acid bath murder, who I already covered for the channel, so I'm not gonna read that one. I know definitely that I'm gonna do Monster of Rillington Place, because he is famous. Christie something. Ruth Ellis in the article that's called Love Led Her to the Gallows. Then there is something that I want to cover because it says it's Britain's first ever kidnapping. The amorous Dr. Crippen, the famous trunk murder at Charing Cross. There is plenty of content here to keep us busy for the next couple of weeks. But today I'm bringing you Margate, Murder by Fire. Margate is in Kent, right? I didn't really read this in much detail, but yes, I'm pretty sure Margate is in Kent. And look at these two cunts. It says a pleasant stroll beside the sea for Sidney Fox and his mother. It's just mother and the son walking by like they're a motherfucking couple. Nothing wrong to see here. What to expect from this case? Let's say what to expect from this episode. It's gonna bring you a statement analysis because I'm just gonna break down some statements here because we learned a lot since this happened. It's gonna bring you a fire, it's gonna bring you somebody who just tried to get away with, again, scamming his own mother. What I'm not sure it's gonna bring you, and what bugs me about this when I first read this and why I'm talking about it, is the motivation behind it. Why? Why did this guy go for his mom? Was it just one thing? Was it multiple things? So stick around, let's dive into the motherfucker. This particular walk that I described was apparently a regular occurrence. Was apparently a regular occurrence for this mother-son duo. I don't want to call it a couple, but yeah, they used to often promenade along the proms of the south coast. Completely normal, nothing wrong there. But however, they used to do it in such a fashion to scam the hotel manager. So two of them went to check into this hotel with like absolutely no luggage, and everybody was like, oh yeah, this is completely normal, like there's no like, not a bag, not like a hand-on luggage at all. Cool, you're definitely just like chilling here instead of your own house. And then without too much trouble, mother and son were booked into adjoining rooms. This is the most disgusting statement. It's just a completely normal statement, but the most disgusting thing that I have read in a while. You can't even like fondle yourself, you just know your mom is next door. Can you? While you're in the adjoining room and your mom is in the next one, do you masturbate? Do you touch your balls? Okay, cool. Taking this way too personal. And the next day, Sidney informed this hotel manager that they're gonna stay there for a couple of days, but obviously they never intended to pay. And they were broke, so they even couldn't pay, so now they're just like prolonging this until they figure something out. And then Sidney, the son, actually went to the insurance company, paid his last dollar, basically paid his last shillings, 1.16 shillings to be precise, and gave them this dud check to extend his mom's insurance basically for the next few days. And what do you know? The next thing you know, it's the hotel personnel, the hotel staff that sees Sidney in his underclothes dashing frantically down the main stairs. And they're like, what the hell? And he is screaming fire. I think there is fire in the adjoining room. Somebody called the booth, somebody asked for help. And now when they actually manage to get help, he doesn't go to his mom's Rosalind's room. He goes straight to his room. And they're like, okay, surely like you are okay yourself? Like, is your mom sleeping in your room? What the fuck is going on? That is where my mind went immediately. I was like, okay, incest. As I saw this picture, I was like, this story must be about incest. Turns out a lot more disappointing than that. So he walks them in and he points to this door that was obviously adjoining the rooms that he opened when he first felt smoke but was now shut. So he basically just let the smoke go into his mother's room, shut the door, and he was like, oh yeah, my mom is in there. And look, it just all sounds like a slow-mo, like a caricature. It's like, hey, let's just do this slowly, and then goes into the room and he's like, my mom might be there, you might want to check that out, just proceed with caution. So like, can we speed this up? Queuing is a syndrome, okay, British people, it's a syndrome. And now what proceeds is like they put a handkerchief. This was like 1929, okay, they didn't know even how to prevent fires in freaking hotels. We should be grateful for fire alarms and all those procedures, right? So they put handkerchief, they go into the room and they're like on the ground, kind of crawling. It's all slow-mo. It's the slow-mo article that I have ever read. They, you know, try to probably call out under the handkerchief to that woman, and they grab her by the legs, pull her down on the floor. I'm done with this article. They pull her down and they're like dragging her out. Just like nobody's checking for pulse or anything. They're just like, my health is my own priority. It's that thing in the airplanes where they're like, put a mask on yourself first. So they grab this woman, this poor woman by the legs, and they're dragging her down and out into the corridor. Meanwhile, Sidney is here screaming, my mommy, my mommy. And then we move on. Wow, what a cliffhanger this first page. Okay, this page brings so much more. You thought this was done? Yeah, no. They bring out this section. They couldn't freaking put out the fire. They didn't have like fire extinguishers or whatnot. So instead, there's a burning chair. They bring the burning chair outside to basically put it out on fire. Wow. Well, let's just say it's glad that the fire didn't spread throughout that whole hotel because they clearly had no fucking clue what they were doing. And in the entrance hall, they tried to revive Mrs. Fox by artificial respiration, but then a doctor said, like, that brought no success. And then they said they brought a doctor hastily. How hastily was that in 1929? They probably had to, like, travel miles, bring this doctor. And then the doctor would just look at her and was like, oh yeah, it's been about 5 hours of her not being resuscitated. She's dead. And they're like, oh. That's how life works. Now when they actually went into the room after all of that to just sort of investigate it, they see like a pile of charred newspapers. So obviously newspapers were used, put like under the chair to start up the fire in the room. But what they realized is because the newspapers didn't char enough, so it was visible that the writing was in French. And everybody knew that the mother didn't speak French. So they're like, why the hell would she just have like a good stack of newspapers she couldn't read, like they weren't part of the hotel or anything. So like, okay, yeah, you look suspect, but let's just give you benefit of the doubt. As I'll put this picture in, basically this chair was next to the fireplace. One leg was completely charred. Again, not something you would do if you were to like put your chair towards the fireplace. So they think the fire was started, the chair was put there, so again wood catches the fire and kind of it makes sure that the whole room isn't on fire. And obviously they didn't expect these newspapers to reveal that the mom didn't actually set this by herself. And then the door was shut, so obviously they inhaled the smoke. And Sidney here didn't do much justice for himself because he said to the police that he did lit the gas fire for his mother and asked if he should wait to turn out the lights. It's like, hey, let me just wait, you know, I can observe this fire, check everything is fine, then switch off the lights, you know, you're safe with me. How did nothing lead to incest? There's so much sexual chemistry just in this scene in my head. I watched way too much How to Get Away with Murder. Then he went downstairs, had a drink, or an alibi, whatever you want to call it, returned upstairs and then just sort of had said like, oh yeah, I went to sleep, and then 11:30 p.m. I just woke up by all of this smoke inhalation. I immediately went out, called everybody to help. That's it, innocent. Who? Never suspected me. Nobody, no. Just adjoining rooms. It's just such a bad coincidence, such a bad luck. This is the kind of luck that I would have and then I would get incarcerated for no fucking reason. Once he felt the smell of the burning fire, he actually went into the room because he remembered all of these newspapers she was reading that might have caught fire again. It's like, oh my god, this might have been the reason for it, but couldn't get in because of the smoke. So instead he shut the door behind and he went to call the police. Cool. He's a great citizen. There was a lot of sympathy and sort of supporting statements, like these people in the hotel, chambermaids, like the people that came and cleaned the freaking room, actually said like, no, we actually did see this person like read newspapers often. All of these days that she was there, she was reading the papers in the chair by the fire, so this was nothing suspect. But the hotel manager was suspicious and they called the hotel where Fox was previously staying and they said like, yeah, we are hunting this guy down. He never paid his bill. We want him for a fraud charge. And also Fox didn't do himself much justice because he was immediately worried more about like, oh my god, well, actually we were supposed to pay this bill and the money to pay this bill was in my mother's bag, but that was not charred and burned, so how do we pay this bill? And they were like, this is how he does it. This is how he defrauds people. But this time we might have him for a lot more than fraud. Soon, of course, it also comes to light this insurance business that he went by because, as I mentioned, it was extended all the way up until October the 23rd. And well, guess what? Mrs. Fox died 20 minutes before midnight. So just before that insurance claim was to expire. So obviously he extended it right for that reason, because it was supposed to expire 21st, extended it to 23rd to give himself some time and to plan this out. After these findings, they actually exhumed his mama's body and now they're the investigation again. Everything is going slow-mo, everything is at a snail's pace. Follow me, yeah? This is why I love telling these stories, because I speed them up. Cool. When you listen to me, do you listen to me at 1 times or like the 1.5 in terms of the speed? Which one do you listen to? Because I can't listen to people anymore talking 1 times speed, talking normal pace. Even with my friends, sometimes I'm like, speed the fuck up. Like, why do people talk so slowly? Cool. I am great at live events. Sometimes even what happens is when I listen to music, I'm like, why is this track so slow and it's just at a normal pace? I'm all fucked up, it's cool. So, slow pace. Why was this mentioned? And now when the police is digging further, they find that he served several terms of imprisonment for fraud and forgery, and that he has been living in hotels since May that year, paying nothing. He's just been going from hotel to hotel like it's his home. So they were like, okay, I have a feeling the two of them just don't have a home and this was kind of bound to happen. So it was just one trigger after the next. And he also thought he was gonna profit out of his mother. Now they go into detail to describe exactly what they would come in with, what they had in their possessions. I just love this article. So Mrs. Fox had a pension of 18 shillings a week. Their only luggage was this small brown paper parcel. And Mrs. Fox had no nightgown, her son neither nightshirt nor pajamas, which was, oh my god, a crime there. Like, how can you just sleep in your underwear and you're a guy? Which is like the main perk of being a guy. It's like the one reason. I mean, the penis part as well, but sure. And in every hotel that they interviewed, they had the same excuse, like, oh, the luggage has been delayed, it's just gonna be here in a couple of days, and then in a couple of days, the two of them just disappeared. So finally, January the 7th, 1930, they actually arrest him, and this time they don't just charge him for this fraud stuff, they charge him for the murder of his mom. And at court, they present that on that evening, he went to his mother's room as late as possible because he thought she will be groggy, she will be sleepy. And they believe the trigger was the final thing that was in his pocket, and that was the bill for the room that he couldn't pay, so he was just desperate. And now we go into the statement analysis. Okay, you're gonna love this. So during cross-examination, they question him and they're like, did you realize that night when you opened the communicating door? I just love to say the communicating door. It's like the two parties love each other deeply and they're most definitely gonna communicate at night. It's mother and son, it's incest, okay? Never happened, never happened. Wanted it to happen? Never happened. Cool. Why would you want it to happen? What is my problem? So, did you realize that night when you opened the communicating door that the atmosphere in your mother's room would probably suffocate anyone inside? Then he says if I had stayed there, I should have been suffocated, which means I didn't want to be suffocated, so I skedaddled out of there. You must have felt greatly apprehensive for your mother. Yes, I did. This part from how he answered it, I would say this is the only part where he was kind of telling the truth, because he answered it in a past tense. There was no like, well, I would have felt apprehensive, da da da. And he was like, yeah, I did. Then this cross-examiner says, Fox, you closed that door. And then he says, it's quite possible that I did. Again, somebody would say, yes, I did, or no, I definitely did not. It's quite possible. It's kind of that like politically correct thing. And you're like, well, I believe that I did. And you're like, that is like very politically correct language. Like you usually don't distance yourself from this. You're just like, yes, I did. No, I did not. Then they asked him, can you explain to me why it was that you closed the door instead of flinging it wide open? Like, you know, to let the smoke out, to let your mom like fucking live? He replied, my explanation for that now is that the smoke should not spread into the hotel. How caring. What a caring, loving individual. He chose, you know. You know, when they made us in freaking criminology, just in school in general, choose like those two pathways. It's like save one person or kill 100, but like save the one you love. And he was like, no, I'm gonna save the 100 people and kill the one I love. Because ethics. Now this is for some reason in uppercase. There were gasps in court as Sir William went on. Rather than your mother should suffocate in that room, then that smoke should get about in the hotel. And he was like, well, certainly not. No, this is not exactly what I meant. So they asked him why, at the moment when you believed that your mother was in that room, did you care a jot about the smoke getting into the hotel? Care a jot. British expressions. This magazine is gold. He said, I have not admitted that I did shut the door. I very much doubt that I did. Again, I have not admitted. I very much doubt. It's very much distancing yourself from the situation or just saying like, no, I didn't say that. This is what I said. This is what I did. It must be really hard now thinking about it during police interrogations to actually interrogate British people who just speak this way actually normally. Because, you know, whenever I listen, it's mostly like American cases that I analyze for the podcast, and podcast analysis, just you can really easily pick these things up from 911 calls, police interrogations, but it's just like now the whole perspective changed for me thinking about how British people actually speak this way even today and how much harder that is for the police investigation to look into. Does it strike you now as an inconceivable thing to have done? Not in the panic I was in. I don't think it was. Again, I don't think it was. It wasn't unconceivable. If you actually think it's unconceivable. I suggest that the communicating door was closed. You don't dispute that. I don't know. This guy's just not helping himself out. Before rushing down, you closed the door of your room. I don't remember closing the door. Again, I understand, like, you might, you know, in the moment, like, actually not remember, but, like, this whole statement kind of reads like somebody's just distancing themselves. They didn't want to help their mom, who was their mom, against, like, other 100 people in the hotel. They just didn't answer any single thing clearly to the point, like, I did, I didn't, which jury notices as well when you understand. But then he admitted he didn't open any of the doors because he was rushing downstairs to get help. So he was like, listen, I cared about the hotel and I also cared about getting help for my mom. I am a loving citizen. Sir William then said, I suggest that if you had wanted to preserve your mother's life, you would have flung open the door. Fox said, I tried to get in, but I couldn't. I dashed downstairs. There was one thing between. You closed the door. He again said, I don't remember. And the jury is there like, sure. This is exhilarating. This is the slowest interrogation and the slowest case. We love it. Then other people testified at trial that obviously the fire was started under that armchair that was, again, close to the fire. Too many things. She didn't read French newspapers. And other tests on various materials show that Mrs. Fox couldn't have brought clothing into contact with a gas fire and dropped it on the carpet to cause the damage it did. Basically, she was lying on bed, sleeping. The fire was started there, clearly instigated by something else, while she was there drowsy/asleep. But then, the biggest shock of everything came into this case. Just love this article, because I thought like, this is like a clear-cut case, you know, like she died, she probably existed. she asphyxiated, but no, the pathologist, now that they exhumed her body, right, actually examined her lungs. So had she died from the flames given off by the fire, there would be carbon monoxide in the blood and the deposit of soot on the linings of the air passages, so like as she was breathing it in. But there was trace of none of that. At the back of the larynx, lying between it and the upper part of the gullet, I found a large recent bruise about the size of half a crown, which in their opinion was caused by some mechanical violence, even a breaking or tearing of small blood vessels. That is so specific and so bizarre, especially for like a 1929 crime. And again, when you read that, you're like, what the hell do they mean? They mean she died by strangulation. So somebody kind of like pressed and broke like the specific blood vessels, but that was so specific. But yeah, she was strangled, and that's why she wasn't actually awakened by all the smokes and the fire, and she didn't start it herself either. They also found a bruise on the thyroid gland as well, which just confirmed that this was by strangulation. So sort of one broke some like blood vessels in the back, and then the other one bruised this area as well. So, you know, gotta do BDSM to learn how to choke people, mate. Wow, okay. Then obviously on his defense team, the pathologists actually didn't believe this half crown. They were like, that is quite specific and it could have been anything. In fact, she died due to the heart failure. Following partial strangulation, you're not helping anybody. Like, what do you mean partial strangulation? So like, she had a heart attack and somebody then what? Helped her out again, just being like this angel of fucking mercy. So they're saying the strangulation didn't cause the death, it was the heart failure. And then somebody else was just there in the room and was like, yeah, let me help you out. But then it meant he lied and he did set the fire still. So intent was there. Premeditation. French newspapers prove everything. The only thing both of these pathologists and just doctors and everybody in this case agreed on was the elimination as the cause of death of a pillow found lying on a side table. So they just both agreed, no, she wasn't suffocated by the pillow because she didn't like inhale anything from that pillow. Cool. Clear for everybody. And the 9-day trial concluded when the jury returned a verdict of guilty. Fox was sentenced to death, and there was no appeal, so he was sent to the gallows to hang at Maidstone Prison on April the 8th, 1930, which was pretty quick. Let me see if this case is on the internet, and let me see if I can find like his last meal. Maybe I can eat it now. Maybe this can be 2 in 1. Both last meals and the True Detective. What was his name? Sidney Fox, Margate. Let's see what internet has to offer. Okay, he is all over the internet. He's on Wikipedia and Murderpedia and all that. And he looks much uglier than in that picture. Okay, they're not like that many articles, they're like 3 on the internet, but still. And they pretty much say the same shit. I can't find the last meal, but I can find that he was the last person executed at this Maidstone hotel. And somebody in the media described it as murder by misadventure, which... sure. I don't know if anybody else finds this so bizarre and like how karma works in different ways. I just find it bizarre that he was hanged. I'm aware that this was the death penalty and the death row punishment in the 1930s, so I'm not surprised because of that, but it's just like he strangled her so specifically, and then he was the one to technically die by strangulation himself. That's why you shouldn't do bad deeds. You choose to do good things and then good things happen to you. You choose to strangle people, you end up strangled yourself. That's exactly how life works in my head right now, okay? Don't you? You can't convince me otherwise. But that's it for this case. This is it for this True Detective Tea. I'm back at 1 week. I'm going to be publishing True Detective Tea, and then the other week I'm going to give you the Criminology 1-on-1. So you have best of both worlds. And as always, if you didn't want to gorge your eyes out watching this video, make sure you like it. So I know you like this type of content and I keep it coming, especially with this British magazine flavor. I'm going to give you the schmack, give you the British schmack. And make sure you subscribe, and make sure you subscribe, so this content is always in your feed because I work like a bitch.
And make sure you subscribe.
So you have different true crime content in your feed every week. This is it. This is what I'm here for. But right now, I have nothing else to tell you. Nothing else to say. So this, ladies and gents, is a goodbye from me to you. Goodbye.